Hello everyone, welcome and welcome back. Happy New Year to everyone. I hope you had a fantastic New Year. Mine was very chill, very relaxed. I just stayed home as I usually do anyway. It is 9 days into the new year, and I wanted to go ahead and just look back at last year, just real quickly look at one of the reports in YNAB and see sort of where my thinking was in regards to my estimate forecast for this year, and kind of show you just my thoughts as to how I kind of came up with the numbers for 2026. I know that there was comments regarding the spreadsheet that I had. It's very, very, very simple, and it's also pretty manual. There's not like a lot of formulas in there or anything because I am not like really, really great at that. I know just basics. There was also a question regarding Toolkit for YNAB. So I'll go a little bit into it, not so much in detail in this one, just because I don't want to make this video so long. But I'll kind of just quickly reiterate what that is. Before we get started with all of that, I did want to just quickly make a note of something well, I guess a few days ago, I noticed that on December 25th, Christmas, the channel hit 100 subscribers. I'm not one to look at the analytics very much, if at all. The only reason I noticed it is because when I was going in to see if there were any new comments to respond to, which I'm trying to get better at that and trying to make it so that I'm not responding like 8-10 days later. I'm trying to respond a little bit more quickly and kind of within a reasonable time frame. But I noticed that there was a couple of new things that popped up that kind of took my eye, and that's where I realized that the channel had hit 100. Now, 100 might not sound like a lot. For me, I didn't even expect to hit 50, to be honest. The channel started because I wanted something to hold me accountable with regards to my finances, because holding myself wasn't working very well. I mentioned quite a few times during the videos, especially later on in the year when I was doing a lot more frivolous spending, especially in entertainment, that it's okay to spend money on yourself as long as you acknowledge your spending and you take care of the responsibilities ahead of time. So the channel definitely worked as a benefit for myself, where I was able to own up to every piece of spending that I did, whether it was part of responsibilities like bills, additional spending on like household things or anything like that, car repairs, whatever it was. But also it let me go ahead and spend money on myself, which may not sound like it should be difficult, but it quite honestly is. And it is something that it's not just me, but I was talking to one of my sisters here, and she was like, it is so difficult to buy for myself sometimes. I'm always buying things for the house or buying things for everybody else. And I said, me too. It's easier to purchase things for other people and spend money on them than it is on ourselves sometimes. And that's okay. You don't have to spend on yourself if you don't want to. And if you're happier spending on other people and you don't need anything or you don't want anything, it's all good. But I've always wanted things, but I've always found it very difficult to spend on myself. And when I do, I've always felt a little sliver of shame when it came to that. So having the channel and having to really put everything out there and own it really, I think, made for a very successful 2025. So again, reaching any type of milestone in the channel, whether it's views or it's subscribers, was never like at the forefront of my mind, but I do appreciate it immensely. I just hope that my channel can at least give you some ideas, or it can even confirm what you're doing, because you see what I'm doing and maybe for you it's not quite right, but it confirms the way you're doing it for yourself. That works just as well. So thank you, and I hope I can keep bringing in something for you to keep watching if you would like. With that said, let's go ahead and take a look at December. Well, not December, but 2025 as a whole. So when we finished off the year, I was left with $6,445 in cash. That's the savings accounts and the checking accounts. In credit cards, I was left with $589.77. For the car loan, it ended at $3,254.74. And then the tracking is just like the HSA, the 401k, and any other stuff that I just want to track, but I don't necessarily want it to be included in the budget. So that was left at $23,292. Now, quickly on the Toolkit for YNAB, that is a third-party extension that you could get either via Google Chrome or Firefox. You just search Toolkit for YNAB and it'll come up, and you can go ahead and apply it if you will. At your own risk. This is not, again, nothing that I'm affiliated with. It's just something that I found years and years ago, and I added it in, and I've never taken it off. At this point, they are just doing mostly maintenance. There's no big updates that come out for it or anything like that. So if YNAB themselves have an update in the application, it could potentially break something on the toolkit. And it will get fixed. And usually, from what I've noticed with the last time it happened, which was quite a while ago, it got fixed pretty quickly. But that's not to say that the same would happen now, just because I don't know how often it's monitored at this point. It still works for what I use it. So Toolkit for YNAB lets you add functionality and cosmetic changes to the UI of YNAB. So a couple of things is, for example, the different color for the actual month that we're on, as opposed to the other months. It makes it a little bit more visible. The more stark colors and the rounded edges for the available sections and the credits. The days of buffering comes from the toolkit as well. It gives you customizations where you could bulk edit different things. So when you're trying to write out a memo, if you want to put the same information on multiple transactions, you can click on them, and if you have that selection turned on the toolkit, it will allow you to type out the memo into different transactions at the same time. The same thing with bulk editing payees and a couple of other things, I think dates as well. And then the one thing is the toolkit reports, I think is one of the biggest ones. So for YNAB, if you have your YNAB and you don't have toolkit, you'll have the reflect reports. They call it reflect now, but it used to be reports before. So you have 5 different reports that give you varying data. So your spending breakdown, trends, net worth, income versus expense, and age of money. The one I usually use is income versus expense. Now with the YNAB version of the report, you can see that there's a lot of open space. So it's difficult to kind of keep track of what line you're looking at because it's all really open. And you can collapse all of these into their own categories to make it easier and just look at it one by one. But there's a lot of like unnecessary space listed on here. So I don't particularly use this one a lot. You can't change the column widths or anything. The toolkit reports has the same reports that YNAB provides and just a couple of others like your inflow outflow for the year, income breakdown, balance over time on the specific accounts, your outflow over time per month, and a forecast that it provides based on your net worth within the next 10 years. So the income versus expense in here, it's a little bit more manageable to look at. You can kind of almost see the entirety of the year, at least in my screen here, I can almost see it all. And the colors make it a little bit more visible for me personally. So I like to use this version of the report. Now, in terms of 2025, what I looked at was the total for the year and then the averages for each of the categories. And then I looked at some of the subcategories, not all of them. So last year, for all of the income sources, it totaled up to 41,876, and the expenses totaled up to 36,459 and 50 cents. So the difference on there, at the bottom, the net income difference is 5,416, and 4,000 of that went into the high yield savings. So there was roughly around 1,416 that the system did not know where it went. One of the things with YNAB is that if you have leftover money in 1 month, it doesn't record it in the following month. So I did not have over $1,000 left in my account at the end of the year because that money would get used throughout the months. So that's what you kind of have to realize with YNAB. It doesn't continue counting remainder as income for the following month. But this is pretty much on point with what came in versus what went out. One of the things here for the vault, which is the savings, you'll notice that it only shows $36.75. That was the interest for the year. Add an additional $10 for December, which I forgot to add in here. So almost $50 in interest last year. Not a huge amount, but you could see the progress from the first month or so. 62 cents that came in February versus $10 that should be here, but it's not, that came in December. So definitely the interest is going up little by little, and the more I add, the more interest is going to come in. Now, why doesn't the 4,000 show in here? Because the 4,000 is listed as a transfer from accounts. It isn't a payment, and it isn't a transfer to an outsourced account or an outside account. So it's not going to look at it as some sort of expense. That's what this tracks. This tracks expense. Because it isn't an expense, it's just not going to show. There's other programs out there that will show what you're saving as a separate instance, but in this case, it's just not going to. So I'm okay with that. I have no problem with it or anything like that, because I know just looking at the account what I saved, and the numbers make sense with what was left over for the year. You can kind of see where majority of that went. So it's okay for me. If you want to track it, you'd probably have to put it in as an expense and not put in your high yield savings account or any savings account you have, or put it in but use it as a, I guess, not count it as an asset, count it as something else. I'm not sure, to be honest, because I just put it in as an asset. So for the reserve, there was $4,900 that was spent. A lot of this was health and car. The big car repair in March, that was about $1,700. And then the various health stuff that I had to pay for throughout the year. November, there was $724, and then back in July, $939. The $500 was what I sent to the HSA back in March. So that's all well and good. Everything else was relatively low. For tech, I had a few things that I did need to buy this year. I had to fix some stuff on the computer, and then I ultimately had to rebuild my computer because we knew that there was a component that was not working, and it literally ended up being the motherboard, which I thought it was. I told my boyfriend, he said, no, no, no. I ended up being right, but we're not going to get into that, I guess. It's okay. And then I did notice that in Haven, these little amounts, this definitely could have been stuff that I put in the regular household fund. So for this year, I have it in mind to make sure that anything small goes into that household fund, because the home fund that is in the reserve is meant for more larger situations. I'm supposed to be saving in there. So that's another thing that these reports kind of help with, is just to know what you did in the year and what you can change for the next one. In the red was the car and then the other various loans. I hit all 3 goals in this, which is amazing. I had the $3,000 goal for the car, the fully payout $4,000 goal for the roof, and the payout for the snow final vet bills for snow at 618, which was my portion of it. So all of this, 3 goals hitting one after the other, just, it felt wonderful to have that there. For the bills, $5,500. Nothing seems too out of the place, or out of place for it. A bit of larger spending at the beginning with T-Mobile, $213 a month. And then the switch to Mint at $225 a month is spectacular. That's around $75 a month. So I went from $200 every time to technically $75 a month that I just have to save to be able to pay it at that third month. One of the best decisions I have ever made, and also one of the decisions that I wish I had made a longer time ago. So I could definitely save, because I had been with T-Mobile for over a decade. I think, yeah, over a decade at that point. And before, it wasn't so expensive. It's definitely gone up as the years had gone by, and we were paying quite a bit. And Mint was just there, just waiting for me to finally pull the trigger and go for it. For the bare necessities, $9,718. This is essentially groceries. Groceries was about $6,000 in total, 6,200 or something like that. 2,900 for the first half of the months, and then 3,300 for the second half. I think as the year progressed, I got a little bit better at balancing out what I needed and purchasing things so that they lasted until the next time that I could go ahead and purchase. So it kind of evened out to where I was a little bit more stable, but it definitely will probably be a big amount again this year. Time after time, this is the annual stuff. This was just under $2,000, so not too bad. For fun, it ended up being $6,600. Just look at December. December added quite a lot. But with all of that being said, October, November, December, the last 3 months of the year definitely added the biggest amount. And a lot of that is because this is where I started buying things in the entertainment category, which I don't have. So everything went into the timeout category, which was meant for my hobbies. Some stuff went to other different categories. Another thing was holidays. I also did not have a specific category for the holidays. I really should have put it in there just so I could track exactly how much I spend for this holiday season, and I didn't. I just used categories that I already had and put it in to where it fit the best. So it ballooned up the timeout category, it ballooned up the gift category, even the eating out category a little bit, not too much, because this is my usual. I'm not gonna lie and say it's not, because it is. But yes, some of these categories had more spending put on them than actual spending for the category itself. So that's what led me to add the 2 additional categories for this year: the DLC, which is for anything entertainment wise, and the red and white, which is for holiday spending. That way I'll have a more clearer picture when it comes to this type of spending. Not necessary spending, just kind of fun wants. The only thing I had in Star Fragments, which is the wish list this year, was my sister's pre-order. I just moved it there because I didn't know where else to put it. I didn't want it to go into any of my other categories. So I just popped it in there. But this is kind of what also led for me changing priorities within this category. I had a bunch of small things included in the wish list, and I never actually purchased anything. And honestly, some of the stuff that I had in there, I kind of forgot about. And I looked at it a little bit ago when I was looking at finishing December. And I was like, oh, I really don't want this anymore, or I don't want this anymore. Or surprise, surprise, I got one of the things in there for a Christmas gift. So I wanted to have my wish list be something that I know I am actively working towards, which is why I put the Thai self-study for the language and a vacation, which the vacation is going to take a long time to fill. And that's okay. I'm not in a rush. But I already have plans on things to purchase to help with the self-study for the writing and the speaking. That's going to come a little bit later this year. I want to go ahead and focus on things like this to kind of have a little bit extra to do on a day-to-day basis that, gets my mind flowing. That's not related to work. Work has, at this point, I guess it kind of has. I was going to say it's trying to take over my life, but it kind of has taken over a little bit. I'm working a lot more hours. I'm finding less time to be free during the week where I feel like doing other things. It's leaving me slightly mentally exhausted. Hopefully that kind of calms down as the year progresses and I'm able to kind of go back to a regular, 9 to 5 schedule or whatever and be able to do things on that I want to do after work without feeling like I am so tired or constantly having a headache because I'm trying to juggle emails and reports and all of this other stuff. So I'm kind of hoping it all evens out soon, hopefully soon. But those are sort of the things that I looked at that helped me plan out either category changes or amounts, totals, and things like that. If we put it in a needs, wants, save sort of 50, 20, 10 or whatever, last year about 70% of my income went towards needs. That is the loans, the bills, the bare necessities, and time after time. All of that is would be considered needs. It was about 70%. For fun, it was about 15%, and then savings was around 10%. So I wanted to flip that this year, and I have it set that for bills, I don't want to go above, I believe 50% is where I had it. And I think I put savings at 20%. Let me just see and take a quick look here. Yeah, so I put savings at 25%. Plus the sinking funds, I did put it in separately. So I put a 10% cap on those. Needs, yes, I don't want to be over 50%, and wants, just keep it at 15. So wants is still within the $6,000 limit, but needs is going down to around 20,000. I'm going to try and keep it at that. Sinking funds will be somewhere around 4,500, and savings, I technically 25% of savings for next year or for this year would be somewhere close to 11,000. But that to me felt like I was stretching it a lot, and I didn't want to feel like I was putting myself against a rock and a hard place. So I brought it down to 8. If I can get to 11, I'm definitely going to try, but I put myself down for 8,000, which is still, I believe, around the realm of around 20% or something like that. So those are kind of where my numbers came for what I wanted to do for every category. And then I just put the specified amounts for every subcategory for 2026. And speaking of this year, let's go ahead and say goodbye to 2025 for what I hope is the last time. And let's take a look at the 2026 budget. Okay, so 2026, no surprise, there is already spending on it. It is, again, the 9th day in this month, so there's already been quite a bit of spending. Of course, one of the first things was groceries. So let's just take a quick glance. I've already reconciled all of these, but my sisters, they give me money for the different sort of trips, so the household and the groceries situation. One of my sisters, what she gave me, I just split it up based on some things that she got that were on there. And then my other sister, I left her stuff just strictly in household because a lot of what she got was the household stuff. Sun check, the payment for the car already went in. $450. I plan on sending hopefully another $450 with the second paycheck. Venture, there's a couple of things here. This particular one, this is a movie ticket. Stray Kids is doing a Dominate Experience movie. I think BTS did something similar. I'm gonna go watch it by myself. This is going to be refunded because I found a different time slot that's a lot more convenient for me on a more convenient day for half the price. So this is going to be refunded. I've already sent that through. A smaller grocery trip just a few days ago. And this was the last bit of merch that I was waiting on that got charged afterwards, once it was confirmed. It was not supposed to be $196 because I was only supposed to get one thing and I ended up getting two. That's just how it went. Most of that will probably be covered with the second paycheck. This food delivery, actually, this should be within the budget because I did raise the budget for dining out, whether it's deliveries or pickup or actually eating at a restaurant. I did raise it. Last year was $80. And this year I said 80 is just not cutting it. Let's go ahead and let's do it at, I believe I put 125 per month. Whether I use it or don't use it and it rolls over, that's fine. And if it rolls over, well, where it feels enough that I don't necessarily need to put more money, I might skip putting money in that month and then maybe put that money towards savings or the car. So that's kind of how I hope that it works. But this I got because my sister decided that she was going to take down all of the Christmas decorations inside the house, the ones we had outside the house, by herself, take down the Christmas tree, take down all of the decorations that were around, you know, the little birds, the little gnomes, the little candles that we have everywhere, put them all away, package everything, clean up, reduce the table size. We have a table that you could extend and you could put the centerpieces in it to make it bigger. Because usually when we all get together, we're about 8 people. She put all of that by herself. She moved the table by herself. I asked her 2/3 of the way of her doing all of this. Because I didn't realize I was working. I didn't realize that she was doing this. I asked her, why didn't you wait for me to get off? I get off at 5:30. And she said, I didn't want to do it that late. I want to get it done and then I have to worry about it the rest of the day. I was like, fair enough. I'll buy you dinner. So I bought her dinner. So that's what that is. I bought her dinner and then I bought myself dinner on the same check. So she deserved it. She did all of that on her own. It took her about 3.5, almost 4 full hours just to get all of that done. Sapphire, just going to the dollar store. I got some storage boxes that we needed. For some reason, my other sister and myself have decided that we needed to do spring cleaning already. So we were tearing down one of the big closets that we have that is fully just a mess. And now we can actually walk in and it's like, it looks bigger all of a sudden. So we threw away, I think, 3 full bags of garbage. So yeah, it's still happening. We're still cleaning different areas of the house and trying to get it sort of more organized. Paid the HOA, paid it ahead of time because I didn't want to worry about it later. And then just some subscriptions and things like that. And then the car has now gone down to $2,800. That is so great. I'm so happy. That $450 made a pretty good difference. And I can't wait to send another payment in. All right, with that, let's go back to the plan here. And let's go ahead and actually cover these overspends. So the $450 is a must because that's already been spent. The fees and services, I just need to cover $20, which the target for this is 40. So I'm just going to add the 40. Groceries, I'm going to add half. And this fund half button, this is part of the toolkit for YNAB as well. So that covers that. Household is a little bit more. I had 50 set aside per month, but we did get a couple of more things that I thought. So I'm just going to cover the full thing. 5-star. Yes, 125, and it actually gets covered with the half fund at 62.50. So that's what I'm going to do. And then DLC, I'm actually going to hold off on right now because I have a few other things that need to happen right now. So I got the bill for the anesthesiologist, and unfortunately, they don't take payment over the phone or online. So I had to mail a check, and I had to mail it from my regular account. Even though I have the money set aside on my HSA, which is what it's there for, I don't have a checkbook or anything for the HSA. It's just a debit card that you get. So I couldn't pay it off of the HSA. So I had to pay it off of my own checking account. I just have to send it now to the HSA, and then hopefully I can get that refunded. It's a lot of back and forth, I guess. I don't know. Not really happy with it, but what can you do? So I have to put in $249.70 to meet that because it was $434. Okay. So let's take care of some of these. So in bills, I'm going to put 60 in nationwide. That is going to change. I believe next month is the last month before renewal. So I'll have to see how much the renewal is going to be. And then water. Let's go ahead and just assign what is needed just so we have it in there. Okay. Everything in adulting minus groceries and household and fees, since we already put money in there. I'm going to do half. There we go. And then I don't really want to put anything in fun right now. I'm going to try to leave the fun category, majority of it, to the second paycheck. Some things I will fund at the beginning, mostly probably eating out, but most of it I kind of want to leave it for the second half of the month with that second paycheck, since it's not really quite a priority for myself as of yet. So with the remainder, I'm going to do the reserve. I'm going to do half. And then that leaves me $255.83. So because I do have quite a bit left over on here, I'm going to use that to clear out this overspend. And then the remaining $34.96, I'm going to go ahead and put it as a start to the savings. For the first few months of the year, it's going to be about $100 in savings, just because the majority is going to the car loan. I want to get this car loan done. If I could get it done within the next 3 months, I would be so happy. I am not going to force myself to do 3 months because that would be a lot. So I hope that within 6 months, if not sooner, maybe 4 months, maybe 5 months, but at the most 6 months. I don't want to go past 6 months and still have this on my books. So that's where I'm going to get rid of it. So a lot of money is going towards the loan right now, which is not leaving a lot for the savings. Once the loan is done, then it's all hands on deck for the savings. So whatever I was putting in the car, that's going to go there. And yeah, that's about it for January for the first paycheck. I'm very happy to be going into a new year with a freshened up budget. Not too many changes from 2025, just some additional things here and there. And then some categories that were also sort of whittled down and like put together, like the self-care and the wellness became one. The monthly and yearly subscriptions became one, just because I don't feel like I need to track those as much as I want to really track the fun spending. I think the fun spending is where I still have a little bit of difficulties, especially with the eating out. So I want to make sure that I'm tracking this a little bit more closely. Everything else I feel very balanced in, so I don't necessarily need to keep such a close eye on like the 4 to 6 fees that might come through the year or subscriptions that I might have or anything like that. I know how much I should have to be able to cover everything, and that is what I made my target for. So yes, that is what I have. Let me know in the comments sort of how you're feeling about your 2026. Are you continuing on your budget journey? Have you started? Is budgeting just not for you? Listen, budgeting is not something that everyone can get behind. Some, like my boyfriend, don't need to budget and they're still able to get everything done. They still know how much they have. I need the visualness of a budget. This helps me really see and hone in on things that I can improve on, things that I can change, or maybe even things that I can spend on a little more. So for me, this is very useful. For him, this is a chore and he doesn't enjoy it. And he actually does better away from this. This, I think, was just making him a little bit antsy. He did not like having to go in this. And I said, listen, if you don't want to do it, don't do it. If what you're doing works for you, keep doing what works for you. So yes, that is pretty much it for today. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for subscribing. I hope everyone has a great January. Thank you as always, and have a wonderful day.